Hi, good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Nicole Donnelly, and I am here with Andrea Rickett and astrologer Lucia Ribello. And
Hi.
today we are going to talk about our modes. We're going to talk about cardinal, air, fire. What's the other one?
Yeah, so it's three of them. It's
Great.
cardinal,
Oh,
fixed, and mutable.
that's the one. That's why we're having this conversation.
Right.
Clearly, I don't know about them. All right, Lucia, why don't you tell us a little bit more?
So the modes, this is just another aspect to astrology. We talked about the elements. That's what you were talking about: fire, earth, air, and water. But the modes is just another aspect into what astrology is. So what are the modes? There are three.
Can you tell me where I can find the modes if I go to astro.com and look at my chart? Where should I
So
be
you're
looking?
So there's going to be a box at the bottom right, and you're going to see a C for cardinal, an F for fixed, exactly, and an M for mutable. You're going to see it at the top. So that will tell you. So if you count them, and we count the sun and the moon, all the planets, but we don't count the nodes, we don't count the AC, and we don't count Chiron. So if you count how many you have in a particular, column, then that will tell you, that will give you a gist of how you tend to be overall. So for instance, if you have, let's say that your majority, of modes are in one of your planets are in a given mode, then whatever your sun, moon, and rising is, you're still going to have a propensity to act in that particular mode. So for instance, we have cardinal, and there's always 4 signs in each mode. And you're going to notice that there is a sign of each element. So you're going to have in cardinal, we're going to have Aries, then we're going to have Cancer, then we have Libra, and then we have Capricorn. So those 4, if you notice, Aries, fire; Cancer, water; Libra, air; Capricorn, earth. One each of the elements, then we have in cardinal. So all those, we have all the cardinal signs. Remember that cardinal signs start the seasons. Aries, the start is the spring equinox. So then we have that's how the spring season. And then we have summer, that is the solstice. It starts with Cancer. And then we have the Libra, then we have the fall equinox, and that is, the fall season. And then we have the winter solstice, that is the Capricorn, and Capricorn starts the season, the winter. So those are initiators. Those signs seem to be doers because they start. So when they are starting, this cardinal people, they just like to do stuff. Even though Cancer, it's not a fire sign, but still has that cardinal aspect in it, where it just goes and do stuff, and whatever it is, takes care of the home and just does it. And I say takes care of the home just because Cancers are very homey. They're very they like to keep their house. It's their castle. It's their precious. It's their treasure. So when we look at this, when someone has a lot of cardinal energy, then this is someone that just likes to do stuff and it goes. But also, with every positive, also we have a downside of it. What's the downside? It's just that maybe this person lacks in sustaining that energy. It just is able to start the task, but it's not able to sustain it. And then put it aside, and then starts another one, put it aside, and then it's not so, because it's harder to sustain it. Whereas if we have someone with fixed energy, that is Taurus, earth, then we have Leo, fire; Scorpio, water; and Aquarius, air. Those are fixed signs. Then with fixed signs, they are in the middle of the season. They are sustaining energy. You know, these are the signs where they have nowhere to go. It's not the beginning of the season and it's not the end of the season. They're just right there in the middle. And these people are great when they're using the energy for the highest purpose because they are determined. They're able to be very reliable. But at the same time, just as the name depicts it, just fixed. You know, they can be a little bit stubborn. They can be a little bit hard to change their minds, inflexible. So this for them, you know, it's a lot to learn about. Hey, it's okay for me to be flexible. I have to learn to be flexible. So let's take a look at your chart. You know, right off the bat, we see that you have a lot of fixed energy. Why? Look at that red, the red lines going from Scorpio to Leo to Taurus. That moon, you know, connecting with Leo, Mars, and then connecting to Venus and Uranus in Scorpio. So you're literally being pulled in three different directions. And when you're pulled in three different directions, is that the way you feel is one way, the way you want to do things is another way, and what you want, what you like is pulling another direction. So these are three things that we got to take into account because then it creates tension, it creates frustration. So when you are, how you get out of it. So by looking at the four elements, what is the four elements? We see that we have air, earth, Leo, fire, and Scorpio, water. Then we look at Aquarius, air. Literally, that is your escape out of that tension because you're having that frustration that is just like simmering. So with that fixed energy, so we go out into Aquarius, putting into the air element to work, intellect, and say, okay, hold on. How do I get out of this fixed energy? You know, then look at it. You know, by using intellect. You know, but not going into your feelings, the moon, but more like going into your, you know, like the head, and then you're like, okay, this is how I'm gonna get out. This is my plan. This is what I really like and want. Because then you're going to be able to get out of the tension because it's fixed, it's stubborn, it's not doesn't move. So it's great energy when you are working on a project and let's say somebody else came and tells you like this is what we need to do. So the cardinal, you know, the cardinal person creates the idea because it has this mutable, creates, I'm sorry, it's cardinal initiator, so creates the idea, gives it to the fixed person to come up with a structure, come up with a plan. And if that person has that earth, you know, balance, a well-balanced earth, it's just going to be beautiful because then you're going to have a great project manager. But so, you know, gotta work with the energy of the modes because then knowing this, you know, it's knowing what modality a given planet is going to free you. How so? Let's take a look at Mercury. How are your thoughts? How's your thought process? Are you closed-minded or open-minded?
What does Mercury look like? What little shape is Mercury? Is it this guy?
It's in your hand in the red.
Mercury is it's the one that's that one.
That
so
one?
If you go to the box above, you're gonna see it says Mercury right next to the planet.
It's the little
right there.
Guy,
the little devil.
Yeah. The second, yeah, right there.
Yeah, that one.
So when you're mutable, you know, you have your Mercury in a mutable sign. So, you know, let's talk about mutable mode. This is a very flexible, easygoing, can be easily influenced, but it's also a multitasker and at the same time can be a little bit scattered. So with that in mind, it's just like, okay, you know, when you're working on a task, it's just don't interrupt me. You know, you can ask, you know, you can hang a sign at the door saying I'm working or work in progress or something, or just to have set boundaries because you can get easily distracted. You know, but the good thing of that is that, you know, it allows you to be open-minded, be able to look at different angles before you make a decision. Whereas with a person with a fixed Mercury, it's just, no, this is the way it is. This is the way I think it is. This is the way I'm going to do it.
Mm.
So it's harder to change the mind and without listening to other people.
Interesting.
Mine is in the same spot, and my Neptune is also there too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's funny. You have both of those two the same.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the one next to it, what is that? Is it Mars with the circle and the arrow? Or, oh, yeah, it is Mars. I have that in the same location too, in the fixed, in the fire.
Yes, because you two have it in Leo. So what that means when you have Mars in Leo, you like, to do stuff, fire element, Leo, fire starter, doer. It's in a fixed sign. So you want to get your way. You want to start this, you start your project, you start something, but you're a task, but you do it your way. You want to get your way. Whereas maybe with your feelings, maybe could be different because, like, for instance, Sandra, your moon is in Pisces, that's mutable. So maybe you can get easily swayed. But when it comes to doing stuff, like, no, you may put your foot down. Because that's where the planet is, so remember that the planet is the what, and the element is the how. The house is the where, and the most. Then we look at it's part of the how because it relates to the sign where it's at. So it's how it's going to do its job. That's how, like my way when it's fixed.
Our Chiron is in the same spot too, and our Uranus is in the same spot.
Yes, and the moon.
And the moon, no, is different.
Venus. Oh, for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
But our Chiron and our
Neptune are the same.
Uranus and Neptune?
Or not Neptune, but Uranus. But yeah, Neptune is the same too. But.
So those two.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. I like this to look at, relationships and other people, because I look at my husband and see where his things are. And I look at my daughter and see where her things are,
Yes.
And
right.
to have a reading, again, like I said, I got a reading before I got married to see, when a good day would be for both of us, those sort of things. And I like to have a professional astrologer look at these charts and help me to interpret, from this perspective. So like with Andrea and I, we can see where our conflicts would be, and we can see where the things would flow and where we might need somebody else on the team, to pick up where we don't have a lot of elements, but we could take other business assessments and know these same things, right? Like it's interesting because we did Strengths Finder and we looked at Strengths Finder and where we fit there. And I like this as another assessment tool for relationships and just knowing yourself better and how you run things.
For sure. It's very important because then you see when you're seeing someone in action, when you see the chart in action, when you see someone, you're seeing, oh, okay, it's because of this and this and that. So this is how I'm going to approach it instead of like going headstrong in your way. So, gotta learn how to communicate because, oh, you understand in their Mercury, you understand how they process thought. Oh, this is how they're feeling. So I gotta, like find a different angle. And that's what relationships are all about. We gotta compromise and do this little dance. So yes, it's very beneficial to see for partnerships, for your, for mother-daughter, mother-child relationships, those, helpful. And so, looking at this chart, like right off the bat, we see that a cardinal energy. You see a lot of cardinal energy that is the predominant in that column. But we cannot forget about the aspects of the chart. We got to see the chart as a whole. We cannot see it in compartments. So why? Because the chart speaks and we got to see its story. So if we look at the aspects, the conversation that these planets are having, there's a lot. We see the tension square, T square. You know, this is the red triangle or semi-triangle. You know, Neptune in Sagittarius, Venus in Gemini,
Yeah.
connecting with Saturn in Virgo. So that's a T square. That is just energy that is in disagreement and it's challenging. But we see it, you know, from a esoteric astrology point of view, it's just a sparks change. Why? Because where there is discomfort, we want change.
Mhm.
So that is, you know, we see everything with the higher version of it. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that where work needs to get done, you know, and it's
Yeah.
just simple as that. So it's an immutable sign. Why it's so important to look at this is why it's so important to look at the mode, not just like, oh, the sign, because or the element, because the mode tells us another story. What is this person struggling with? You know, whereas yours, Nicole, was in fixed sign. So yours like, you know, fixed energy. And this one is mutable, you know, changeable. So it has a hard time, you know, sticking with a decision. It has a hard time knowing what it likes. It has a hard time with his dreams, you know, with his life lesson, you know, it's because it's in constant change, it's scattered. So these are things that we know we want to look into, like, okay, has a lot of cardinal energy. So this person, you know, starts, you know, likes to initiate, but then changes his mind. So, you know, and so it's missing that fixed, you know, grounding energy, determination, and stability to get something going, you know, there are people that are very successful that have this, you know, that is not in any way a reflection of success. It's just that the struggles, you know, struggles that, you know, on a personal level or a professional level, but still like struggles, you know, we're not talking, you know, we cannot say, oh, this person's gonna be challenging and success. No, it's not that. It's just that on an everyday, you know, day-to-day basis, you know, so it's
Yeah.
so important to look at the big picture.
Yeah, that's funny. He has so many ideas of things, and then my energy brings some to fruition, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, there's
with your
me.
fixed energy.
Yeah.
Thing too.
You are, you're in mine. I really do like this for business coaching. I use it when I look at business partners, and I just know it lightly, you know, but I can see what works between two people and what doesn't work, like the harmonious aspects and disharmonious. And so last year I decided that I chose to use people's charts when I'm doing business coaching. And if they don't want that, then we're not a good fit. And it's been so much more fun to work with clients that like to use this, because they tend to be a little bit more open-minded and open to growth as well. So the first person that I asked for their birth data, she was so excited. She was so excited. She's like, yes, I want to see this. I want to understand it, you know, with her and her partner, and her business partner, and, you know, two women. And they were really open to this. And after looking at their charts, I also looked at Strengths Finder, and I could see exactly where their conflicts were and where there would be communication breakdown, and where there were alignments as well that made their bond really strong. You know?
Yes, it's very important. I think this is looking at someone's chart is more important than any personality test, because personality test is a bunch of questions. Sometimes you like, you know, answer them depending on the mood that you're in. If you're having a bad day, you're gonna be more negative about your answers. If you're having a positive day, you're gonna be like, oh, so it can get a little bit, you know, swayed. So you have to like do them several times to really get an accurate realization. And not that I'm shooting all over personality tests, you know, but I've done myself like several, and nothing is as clear and understanding like a chart, like looking at, you know, a birth chart.
Yeah, because we don't change this. It's just here it is. So I took a personality test, I think it was like a month or so ago. It was a different one than the Strengths Finder, and that I forget what it was called. And the questions were so weird. Like some of them took me a really long time because they all seemed like the same answer. And like, how are you? So one day, like you said, I could pick one, and then another day, like, you know, whatever happens, and then I'm picking something else. So in that case, it's like whatever you are is always changing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't get in the way of this, I guess, is the point, right?
Exactly. This is, you know, the picture of the planets, you know, of how they were at the time and place of your birth. You know, it's just so unique to you, and it's just, you know, this is that your soul imprint. You know, this is like looking at your soul, you know, and we see. And you know, people say like, "How do you know that?" Well, it's in your chart, and it's crazy the information that it has, but it's just everything is there.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing that astro.com has this available to anybody.
Yes.
And it's free. I mean, interpretation is a whole other level, but at least you can get a visual for totally free. But you need a professional like you, Lucia, to help translate it all, because even if you just say, okay, where's my sun and moon, that doesn't even really tell you all this stuff, because like the deeper we get in, and now in these modes, I'm like, oh wow, this is even deeper than I ever really thought of. So
yeah, it truly is speaking another language, you know. And it's just like when you're starting a language, you know, you learn the alphabet, you know, you learn, you know, then you move into conversational, and then you're proficient, you know. Like it's just the same thing when you are interpreting, you know, a natal chart, you know, when it's and it's fascinating because it has so many layers to it. And there's a, you know, like, how do you read it? You know, well, there's every astrologer has their own method, you know, because otherwise you will get lost into like, oh my God, it's too much stuff going on, you know, like, well, where do you even start? Well, you know, for me, it's sun, moon, and rising. Then I go into the elements, anything conjunct, you know, the sun, moon, and rising, and then, you know, I trickle down, you know, through my list, you know, to look at a chart. Some others start, you know, with the notes, you know. So everyone has a little method because to see the conversations that, you know, the story of the chart.
Have you done readings for pets?
No, I haven't done readings for pets. I know, you know, as with any the time or even the day of birth, you know, it can be easily done. It's just I haven't had any request about it, but you know, I've done it for my pet, you know, but I only have her date of birth, but in her location, but I don't have her time of birth. So it's incomplete.
I guess that's where it's a little less clear, huh?
Yeah.
I know. I was just thinking, my daughter rides horses, and horse people, like, they want all the things for their horses, and
That would be interesting. But yeah, it'd be hard to track down the info, I think. So
yeah. If you can get like, even just to get into the date of birth, you know, we can just use the date of birth and time of and the place of birth, you know, where they were born, and then we just put with a chart, we just put unknown for the time, which that's how I've done it for clients that don't know their time of birth. So you can still read a chart, you know, for someone that you don't know, they don't know their time of birth. But it's just we don't know the houses, and we don't know the angles, so we don't know the ascendant. We don't know the midheaven, the career line, the home line, and the DC, the relationship line, and we don't know the houses, so we wouldn't know what house the sun falls in. But I've done it for people, you know, that, and still a very valuable reading, you know, because at least they know that their place of birth and of course their date of birth, and it's still very valuable. We just don't know, you know, some elements of the chart, like the houses, but still it's very beneficial. So for horses, you know, or for pets, as long as you know where they were born, then we have something to play with. Even though you don't know the time, we have at least the place of birth gives us another information to know about them.
Yeah, at least you'd have something.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and I didn't realize that the time is what affects the houses. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know my time, but it's surprising how many people don't know,
Yeah.
But I guess,
Yeah.
depending on your situation, if your parents aren't around anymore or whatever,
Yeah.
how would you know?
Or
Yeah.
and sometimes, like if they don't, you never, ask them what time you were born, they may have forgotten already, or
Mhm.
it was just simple not in your birth certificate. So it's very common for people not to know their time of birth, and because, it's in actual also in foreign countries, it's
Mhm.
not a practice to put them in the birth certificate.
Hmm.
So depending on where, it can get tricky for some people, but like I said, we still get a lot of good information, at least knowing that the place of birth. But yes, the time of birth gives us the houses and the angles, which is,
Hmm.
more info.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that stink if you thought you were born on a certain day, but then later on figured out it was wrong and you'd been going by the wrong chart forever?
Yes, yes. It's one of actually, that is the first thing I do when I do a reading. It's like confirm the time of birth, place of birth, and date of birth, because you'll be surprised also how many times people give you the wrong information.
Yeah,
So
but it's
like,
like, what if they don't even know? It's kind of like
yeah,
where ancestry and some of these other things have come in
yes.
now, and how families are like, oh, now all these secrets are out, so.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Thank you, 23andMe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, great. Yeah,
Yeah. My
that one
friend,
for me is like more harder to grasp, this concept we discussed this week. Not that I don't understand it fully, but to me that one seems a little more complicated. So I'm gonna have to read a little bit more about it and practice looking at it.
yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta look at the in the box to see, like that gives you a right off the bat idea where you are, but you also gotta see how the planets are talking to each other. Those are the aspects. So by looking at that is just another component that we're looking at. So some people, don't have as many lines, as many aspects in their chart, so they're going to be less influenced by that, and then you're going to see, oh, okay, I'm mostly cardinal, or fixed or mutable. But then if they have like tension squares, or if they have grand cross, then we gotta also look at that and see how it plays out.
So
Those
much
are the aspects. Yeah. Yes, the aspects is the conversations the planets are making. Is it are they in agreement or in disagreement, or is there room for dialogue, or everyone is just like, are they pulling each direction and not giving in, so that's another, that's when the chart comes alive.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
if someone does get their chart from astro.com, they can definitely reach out to you, Lucia, right? For
Yes.
interpretation and explanation of what all of these lines mean. So
For sure.
sparklewithin.com is Lucia's website, and you can get a hold of her there, Instagram, Facebook, all the other places. So
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here, Lucia. And
Thank you for having me.
we will see everybody again next week.
yay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.